Mrs. E here again, and today we're going to be talking about something so important. It's something we talk about every single day, how to tell time. And today we're going to be telling time by the hour, okay? So let's go over the basics. On our clock, we have two hands. We have our minute hand, which is our long hand, and we have our hour hand, which is our short hand. Okay, and for today, we're going to be using blue for our minute hand and red for our hour hand. All right, so if we're just working on telling time by the hour today, we are going to be paying most attention to this red hand, which is going to be our shorter hand. It's our hour hand. And you can see when I line these up that the minute hand is much longer than our hour hand. Okay, so one other thing I want you to learn for today, if you look behind me, you'll see the clock says 3 o'clock. O'clock is when my blue hand is all the way at the top, okay? So if you see o'clock, we're going to say o'clock, all right? So let's do a little test just to see if you're paying attention to that blue arm. O'clock. Very good. Okay, so let's go ahead and count how many hours are in our clock, okay? So in order for us to do that, we're going to be counting by ones. And you'll see those numbers right here on the outside. So those big red numbers, we're going to count by ones, okay? Starting with 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There are how many hours on a clock? 12 hours on a clock. You're correct. Good job, everybody. So there are 12 hours on a clock, and there are 12 hours in each part of our day. We have the morning and we have nighttime, okay? We'll talk about that more later. Today we got to stay focused on just telling time by the hour. All right, so we're going to do a couple practice problems here. Let's try one out. First time we're going to look at is 3 o'clock. And if you look at the clock behind me, it already says 3 o'clock. Our hour hand, which is our short red hand, is pointing to the number 3 because that's what hour it is on the clock. So I need to get this red hand to my 3 to say 3 o'clock with our blue hand at the top. Are we ready? It is 1 o'clock. If I go all the way around my clock, my minutes are going by. This is 2 o'clock. Good job, everybody. We are almost there, aren't we? Here we go. Going to 3 o'clock. This is showing 3 o'clock, just like the one behind me. Our hour hand is pointing to 3 hours, and our minute hand is pointing to o'clock. Good job, everybody. All right, so now that you're so good at this, we're going to try another one. 6 o'clock. So if I look at my time here, my hours are pointing to 6. So I need to go find the 6. Can you see the 6? Okay, let's go to it. We're at 3 o'clock. So I need to keep going because 6 is a bigger number than 3. Here we go. We're about to be at 4 o'clock. Here it comes. 5 o'clock. And we're almost there. 6 o'clock. Very good, everybody. 6 o'clock. Now we're going to do one more practice one, okay? Our last practice time for the day is going to be 11 o'clock. Oh my goodness, it's the biggest one so far. Let's see if we can get to it. 6 is smaller than 11, so we're going to have to go all the way up here to get to 11 o'clock. So let's see if we can do that today, okay? We're going to go a little faster now. 7 o'clock. 8 o'clock. 9 o'clock. 10 o'clock. And you guys, we're almost there. Do you see the number 11? 11 o'clock. Very good, everybody. So if you notice today, we are just telling time by the hour, which means every time we've looked at so far has something that's the same. O'clock, o'clock, and last but not least, o'clock. So every single time had our minute hand at 0 or o'clock, right? All we were changing is our hour hand. Okay, so to help you a little bit more with your practicing of telling time today, I'm going to teach you how to make a clock so that you too can practice just like I am here. Okay, are you ready to make your clock? You're going to need to gather a few materials before we get started. Now, if you don't have some of these materials, that's okay. You can make almost anything out of paper, okay? So if you don't have some of these things, I'm also going to show you what you can do if you just have a couple pieces of paper at home and some scissors and something to write with, okay? So let's see. If you have this at home, you may grab a paper plate. Make sure it's one that you can write on, okay? And make sure you ask your parents first to see if it's alright if you use one of these. If you don't have a paper plate to write on, that's okay. We can make a circle for our clock out of a piece of paper, alright? So, one of these is going to be your clock, okay? You're going to need one of them. Then, you're going to need your hands. We have our long minute hand and our short hour hand. So there's a couple different fun choices you can use for that. Again, if you have paper, you may use that, okay? You can also use, just for an idea, some popsicle sticks, and I'll show you how to use those in a minute. Get it? And you can also use some pipe cleaners, right? They're very bendy, and I picked the same colors as our minute and hour hands that we've been using today. So if you want to use pipe cleaners, you can. You can also use some colored paper if you have that, just so it pops against your white clock. Alright, and last but not least, you always need a writing utensil. So go ahead and gather those materials and I'll see you in a second. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and show you how to make your own clock really quickly. So I said that you could use a paper plate for your clock, or if you don't have any paper plates, you can use a piece of paper. You're going to use a piece of paper. If you're using a piece of paper, you're going to want to fold it in half. And then you're going to cut it out like it is a circle, okay? Once you cut this on the side that is open, like this, don't cut on the folded side, you're going to cut out a circle, okay? And a clock has our numbers labeled like this. I'm going to show you a quick way to label your clock, and then I'll show you how to make the hands, okay? So when we are labeling our clock, I always start with 12 first because it's at the top in the middle, okay? Then I go to the bottom middle, which is 6, okay? Then I go to the middle on this side, which is the number 3. Last, I go to the middle on this side, which is the number 9. So the reason I do that is because it makes it a lot easier to space out my numbers evenly. If I just start writing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, you're probably going to squish your numbers and you're not going to have them spaced out evenly, okay? So now I can go ahead and fill in the rest of my numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So now they're spaced out nice and even. And I'm going to put a little dot in the middle just to show us where the center is and where our hands are going to go. Okay? So now I'm going to show you, if you want to do your hands, some different ideas you can use. Okay? So one idea is I could use some pipe cleaners, and I used a red and a blue just to be the same as my big example clock that I was using. So you're going to want to cut these pipe cleaners. I cut my blue one, which is going to be my minute hand, that's longer, in half. And then I went ahead and just folded over the edge like this, and then one more time, and that kind of makes an arrow here, okay? You're going to do the same thing for the red one, but the red one is going to be shorter, so when you're finished, they should look something like this. You can always trim them if you need to. So if you're using pipe cleaners, they're going to look like this. That's 2 o'clock. So I line them up in the middle, okay? Another idea you can use is popsicle sticks. If you're using popsicle sticks, you can keep one of them this height because it can be your minute hand, but this one's going to need to be shorter. It's our hour hand, so have a parent help you because popsicle sticks are really hard to cut. You can go ahead and cut that in half, and then you can use that for your hour hand, okay? I went a step further if you'd like to do this, and I went ahead and drew the same colors so that it would match up with mine. I drew an arrow on my popsicle sticks so that they look like hands. Okay, and last but not least, I will show you how to make one out of paper. I used colored paper. You don't have to. So if you're using paper, I cut a strip of blue and a strip of red to match my clock. The blue one I cut in half. And then all I did was I cut the tip so that it was in the shape of an arrow. Just like that, okay? So when you do that to both of them, make sure your red one is longer. Oh, I'm sorry, make sure your red one is shorter because it's your hour hand. They're gonna look like this. And I wrote minute and hour on them so that I could tell. So our minute hand is long and then our hour hand is going to be short, all right? So that's 3 different ways that you can make your hands and then 2 different ways you can make your clock. Okay, everybody, so now that you have your clock and I have my clock, I thought it'd be fun to end doing a couple of word problems for telling time. Can you handle it? Let's see. So I have my clock ready, and I'm going to show you guys a word problem and read it to you, okay? Here we go. This card says waking up, something we all do every day. Anita wakes up at 7 o'clock a.m. Use your clock to show the time. Okay, so let's look at this word problem here. I see the number 7 o'clock. Okay, so let's go ahead and see if we can find that on our own clocks here. 7 o'clock. So remember, o'clock is when my minute hand is pointing right up at the 12. O'clock, okay? So I know my blue hand is going to be pointing up at the 12. Now, we need to find where the 7 is because the hour is 7 o'clock. So let's see if we can count to find 7. You tell me when to stop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, you found it. There's 7. So let's get there. All right, I hope you moved your hands on your clock as well. So now we see the hour hand is pointing at the 7 and our minutes are pointing at o'clock. 7 o'clock. You did it. All right, let's do another one. This one is saying eating dinner. This is something else that we all do. The Garcia family eats dinner at 6 o'clock p.m. Use your clock to show the time. 6 o'clock. Let's see if we can find that on our clock. So 7 o'clock was pointing here at the 7, and our minutes are pointing at o'clock. Now I heard 6 o'clock, so I know my minutes are not going to change. They're going to point at o'clock. All I need to do is change my hours to 6. Okay, so we need to go right in order of our time on my clock here to the 6. My clock is very loud. I hope yours is a little bit more quiet at home. So here's my 6, and my minutes are pointing right at the o'clock. 6 o'clock. Good job, everybody. All right, I think you thought we were done, but we're going to do a little trickier problems, all right? We have one more to do. It's going to challenge your brain. It's a 2-step time problem. You ready? Reading a story. I hope all of you are doing this at home. Please, please read. It's very important. Emily starts to read at 4 o'clock p.m. She stopped reading 3 hours later. What time does she stop reading? Go ahead and think about that for a second. I'm reading this and I'm thinking I heard that it starts at 4 o'clock. So I know I can find 4 o'clock. But that's not what they're looking for. She started at 4 o'clock and then she kept reading for 3 more hours. I know it's going to be more because it says 3 hours later, so time is going by. Okay, so it wants us to find what time she stopped reading. Let's see if we can figure it out. First step is to go to the time it told us in the problem. Emily starts to read at 4 o'clock. Let's go. Use your clock. So, o'clock's going to be pointing up. Let's go all the way to the 4 here. Go ahead and find it on your clock. There we go. I'm at the 4 for my hours and o'clock for my minutes. Okay? So we did the first part of the problem. Awesome job, everybody. So she starts to read at 4 o'clock and she stopped reading 3 hours later. So I know that time is going by. I need to add 3 more hours to 4 o'clock. Let's see if we can count 3 more hours starting at 4 o'clock. Are you ready? 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and 7 o'clock. So if I have started at 4 o'clock and I read for 3 hours, I'm going to add 3 and I am going to end up at 7 o'clock. So Emily starts reading at 4 o'clock. She read for 3 hours. 1, 2, 3, and she stopped reading at 7 o'clock. So the answer to our problem is, what time did she stop reading? 7 o'clock. All right, everybody, I hope those were challenging for you. I hope you enjoyed telling time with me today, even with my noisy clock here. It's okay, it's not his fault. And I hope you join me next time to learn how to tell time by the minutes.